Hi, rock stars. This is Beth Azor. I wrote a book called the Retail Leasing Playbook. This podcast will go over a few chapters each week to discuss the highlights of how you can lower your vacancy and increase your occupancy. I hope you enjoy it.
Today, we are on chapter 63, which actually starts the last section of the book. And the title is Nationals Need Even More Prep Legwork. So I've spoken about this a lot through social media and when I chat with leasing agents, whether in workshops or at ICSE. It's so important to do the homework. I would say that this is probably the most important or probably the most asked question I get when speaking to leasing agents, especially junior leasing agents. How do I get the nationals to return my phone call or my emails? The way that you do it is you give them as much information as possible that apply to them, right? It's all about them. It's not about you. So if you haven't done the homework, if you don't know that Sherwin-Williams needs 80 feet of frontage or Dollar Tree needs 80 feet of frontage and you send them a site that's 40 by 150, they're not going to respond to you. So that's even, I would say, 3,000 or 4,000 level status because the retailers stop me at the conferences and complain that leasing agents are still sending them sites where they've got a location across the street. Now, it's okay. I once built a strip center and we had an end cap possibility available. We had asked Starbucks a bunch of times. They kept telling us no. They eventually said yes. But when we went to our backup Dunkin' was next door. And of course, the email needed to say, "Hi, Dunkin'. We know that you're next door to this site. However, you are in an inline space and we are building a strip center with an end cap with a drive-through." So retailers are still complaining as of this recording, which is 2023, that retail agents are still sending flyers without doing any homework about frontage, whether they're in the market already, whether they match the demographics. So we really need to do our homework on the retailer and what their needs are. Set up a Google alert. So every time the retailer's mentioned, you get a Google alert, and then you can, in the next conversation you have with them, you can congratulate them on their newest opening or their newest prototype or their newest concept. But do the homework. Do the homework. Also, when it comes to nationals, I once went on a trip to Dallas to meet with a bunch of asset managers, and we had some extra time on our calendar. And I said, let's see what retailer we can meet with while we're in Dallas. And it turned out that we were able to meet with a guy by the name of Henry that worked at Sally Beauty. And so, one of the persons on my team said, "Sally Beauty, they're so small." Well, small reps for small retailers become reps for large retailers. A year or two later, the guy that was at Sally Beauty then became the guy at Cinemark. So don't ignore the smaller retailers. First of all, we all need the 1,200, 1,500 square foot retailers in our centers that are nationals and corporates. But those reps for small retailers become rep for big retailers. So don't ignore them. I promise it will return big benefits for you in the future. So that is today's chapter number 63, and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. I hope you learned a few nuggets to help increase occupancy and lower vacancy. See you next week, where we'll go over a few more chapters of my book, The Retail Leasing Playbook.